I know there's more than 6 of you in this room. I hopefully want to get everybody down. I'd like to know attendance numbers. We'll be voting on a couple things today too, so it's important that you get in. Okay, 9:30. Where's it at 9? I'm gonna wait for 15. Good morning. Ready for week 2? Yeah. Good morning to Jessica, Isabella, Amy, Alan, Laura. Good morning to Kevin. Daniel. Good morning to Rebecca. All right, we're gonna get started. Hopefully everyone joins. Okay, so this is the agenda today. We've got a lot on our plate. We're going to start off with some housekeeping, running through the basics. In case you don't know where things are on Brightspace, we're going to go over that too. We're going to recap last week, which will be on the test today. And that's the 5 foundations, that's an experiment with different types of sites. We're going to go over new material, reliability, and validity. And we're going to start to break down a short answer question. A lot of you guys were worried about that on the upcoming midterm, so we're going to really dive into how you're supposed to answer that and what they're really asking of you. And then we're going to do a comprehension check. I'll cover the comprehension check in more detail in just a second. Other stuff we're going to go over. I noticed that some of you are shy coming up to me. It's really fine. I'm just a person. I'm hanging out. This is me. This is my setup at home. I love drawing and I love playing instruments. I recently went to NYU London abroad. That was really fun. I went to the Ford Museum. I used to do pre-med and I draw everything to get a handle of it. I used to work at the DMC. And I was activated during COVID-19, which I did. I like making art. Don't be afraid of me. Come talk to me. You can use me as a resource, ask me questions. I'm just hanging out. The reason why I got into psychology is because of my family. My brother went through it while we were growing up, and he was lucky enough to be part of that and started to go into psychology. Yeah, this is me doing camp stuff. This is me making a mooncake. I love cooking. I love baking. I'm not good at it. I set most things on fire, but it helps me relax. These are my office. Okay, so office hours. We still need to do a poll for that because I want to know what day works best for you guys. But I'm just going to give you the rundown. It is not in this classroom. If you come here on Wednesday or Thursday and you're like, where is my teacher? It's not going to be here. It's actually the psychology building. In case you don't know what 6 Washington Place Room is, it's this building. It's kind of near the McDonald's, if y'all know where that is. Or near Gallatin, which is my home school. Yeah, room 433. Just go up to the 4th floor. The elevators are on the left when you enter that place. And what will I talk about? Usually I'm open there for Q&A. Some people, there's always usually a couple motivated students that will really go out of their way and like ask me to run down all the concepts. I'm happy to do that. And I'll also be going into detail about the stuff that I didn't cover in lecture. That is 10% of your exam grade. it is the reading. Those will be on the exam. Those are fair game. He will probably ask questions about that, even if he doesn't cover it in class. So I hope you guys are keeping up with that. If you're wondering, wait, what the fuck are the readings, or what the hell am I supposed to be covering? You should be looking at my, you can go to my intro to psych page, and this right here, these will tell you exactly what reading for each week, okay? It's for Google people, for Apple people. You just click on that and it'll show you on a calendar, like what you need to do. So, or you can just look at the, syllabus. I always find that to be easier. So I'll probably be going over that as well. Also just a recap of anything that I covered in class that I went through too fast. Okay. What day works best for you guys? This is why I asked you to join Menti, because this will decide when I'm going to have office hours. Everyone vote. Everyone vote. Wednesday. I hate working on Fridays. That's like the test day. Keep it going. Keep voting. You can see if the office is even open on Fridays. So I'm going to take the Friday slot for the TAs. Because I know a lot of TAs have their lecture on Friday. Is that early yet? Can somebody else vote? Please. Okay, thank you. Just wait, like 5 seconds. I'm clicking the poll. It's Wednesday. Okay. Okay, I'm having it on Wednesday. It's gonna be like, I'll do 9:30 to 11 or 10 to 12. That's even, so I feel like that might be better for people to memorize instead of like 9:30 to 10:45. I can do it then. I'll just be there. You can find me there. Find me there whenever. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Also, some people have not scheduled appointments, and I do not want to come in on random days. I like to book them back to back. So, we have a spot here at 9:30 to 10. Somebody book this spot, please. We got one at 10:30 to 11. Someone book it here, please. We got one from 11:30 to 12. Someone book it here. You know how to book. Someone tell me that they know how to book me. Raise your hand. Starts with a C, Calendar. Okay, you can find it on my syllabus. You can find it in my email at the end where I have like all my information. Yeah, please book me there, because the other day I had one like once every other hour, and I was like, wow, I did not plan this in. Looks like somebody booked for out in December. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing for Christmas. I don't know if I'm gonna be here. So I canceled that one. You just have to rebook that one. But yeah, try to book in this time frame of September or October. That'd be good. I do not know what's going on in December. I'm not thinking that far. I think like 3 days ahead of time. But yeah, and also these periods, please. That'd be great too. It's on my previous calendar. Yeah, please give me a day. Okay, I like to cover random things that you might find helpful, because I care about you as people. I'm not just a teacher, I'm also a being with your life. And there's undergrad level cover letters. It's like free classes that NYU gives you because you pay them so much tuition, and they're supposed to make sure that you succeed after you do this undergrad career shit. And so I go to almost all of these because you make those connections and they give you jobs. So, I can't go to this one because I think I have a meeting. Yeah, I got a meeting or something. Yeah. But, Caitlin, if you want to go to undergrad level cover letters with me, you can do our meeting there. I recommend it though. They've helped you through the whole process. They've helped me make my cover letter and shit, so it isn't like 7 pages long, it's just one. It's great. 10 out of 10. Ad drops is coming up, and by coming up, I mean today. I'm not sure if it's at midnight today, or I could already pass, but I would look into that. This is the last time to do it on Albert without having to go through a whole process of making a form, sending it to the department, getting it approved, bothering Andy Hilford, who already works too hard. That man does not sleep. We don't want to do that, so just like do that shit today. I'm thinking about switching out some classes. I hate that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But if you also want to switch out of this recitation informally, like you can go to another recitation. No one's stopping you. Just let me know, and then I can work with the other recitation leader, and they can like work it out. I've already had like some people contact me about doing that informally into my class, and some people informally going out of my class. So just let me know. Don't randomly disappear because then you'll get zeros, and then we'll all be sad at the end of the year when you're freaking out and you have a 0 for your recitation grade. And I'm like, dude, I tried to tell you. Oh yeah, recap. That's me. I'm going into clinical neuroscience. I did pre-med starting off, so I know a couple of your pre-med props. It's hard out there. Oh yeah, disclosure. I make mistakes. And I have dyslexia, so I might misspell shit. And yeah, it's just part of the learning experience. Always feel free to like check me or like be like, actually that's not right, or shit like that. And don't be pissed if I like every year someone comes up to me and is like, this test is not coded or like worded exactly right, and I'm going to like protest and send letters to the department because you did not word this one question so right. Half of the reason why I'm thinking about not grading the tests at all, because it happens every year and it's such a headache. I'm like, dude, I used to be you in principles of bio, but I don't know. It's not it. So I'm just asking, please don't do that. It's a headache for everyone involved. I probably won't give you the point either. If you do that on the midterm, they're probably not going to give you a point, and the professor will remember you and you'll be fucked. So just don't do that. It's not fun. It's not fun for anyone involved. I used to be that student. Now I'm the teacher for that. I regret my actions very much so. People ask me what they should call me. I think it's really sweet if you call me professor. Someone did that and it made my day. I was like, I'm a whole ass professor. But you can also just call me Natalie. I don't give a shit. Oh yeah, and I swear a lot. I'm so sorry. I've been working on it because I have interviews coming up and I just like literally cannot stop. That's another reason to switch if you want to switch this morning out there. Do the Google form. Do it right now. All of you. All of you. Have you done the form? I'm looking at every single one of you. Fikra, Isabel, Amy, Alan, Sam, Laura, Izzy, Caitlin. Y'all don't have your name cards up. All of you. Have you done your form? Because I have like 1/3 of the class that has not done the form. If you're worried about what the hell the form is, literally, just go here. It's the form. It's this form. This form right here. Oh my god, it looks like this. Holy shit. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's wild. You can find it there. You can find it in the email I sent out. This is a list. And these people are chilling. You guys don't have to worry about me screaming at you. You guys can completely disregard this message. This is how I've tracked it so far. And I updated it this morning. So, yeah. Check your name. See if your name's up there. Is your name up there? I hope so, because a lot of people just randomly transferred in. So if the name is not up there, please let me know, actually. I filled out this form sometimes. What is your name? And I'll take it down. Kira. Kira. There's always a technical error every year. I'll check on that. You feel like you submitted it sometimes. Okay. Yeah, I'll check on it. Yeah. Slay. Okay. I'm gonna stop yelling. What's up with the comprehension challenge? Oh my gosh, we have our first quiz today. Y'all scared? You shouldn't be scared. It's not that serious. It's like, I'm even giving you guys like Note cards. Every year, people get really technical about what a note card is. So this year, I brought a note card. A note card cannot be just a huge piece of paper that you bring in. I had a student that did that. No, that does not count as a note card. Note cards are this big. Note cards look like this. You can get them off Amazon for 99 cents. If you lost your note card or you forgot a note card, I have note cards up here. I did it this year. Yes. What is the comprehension challenge? It'll be like 10, 15, 20 minutes at the end of every class, depending on if someone has Moses accommodations. Please let me know if you have double time, because then I legally have to push it all the way back. And I am that double timer, so no shade or anything. I just think so. It will be graded for now. It will be graded for now. I'm putting that out there into the universe. That I will collect your grades. I will type them into Brightspace, and they will be graded. How much of the grade? I'm not sure. I have concepts of a plan, and you will hear about them in the not too distant future. Yeah, and then afterwards it'll be posted on Albert at the end of the class. What's my study guide? What's the difference between note taker and study guider? I'm gonna run through this real quick because I feel like I've gotten this question like 3 times now. So you can see that this is a whole schedule of people who have signed up to take care of you if you get sick. By the way, can we get a round of applause for Kyle, Hill, and Donica Way? Everyone, they saved your ass if you didn't make it to the last lecture. Great job, guys. Good job out there. I'm gonna use this up there somewhere. Yeah, so this is just to make sure, like, if you miss anything in class, you can find it here. You just have to, like, click on this. I noticed that some people are not, like, Google Doc fans, so you just click on it and then you do this. And if you want it in code something, you Command K, and then it pops up like this, and you put in your link there. Does that make sense, everyone? I didn't think to talk that through, but it's good to know. And you'll need these when the comprehension challenges come along. What is the difference between it? So note takers are essentially taking down everything he says in class, like all the examples, all the little tidbits, the key terms, the key words, and also like ways to remember them. It's almost like a transcription. Whereas on the other hand, study guider is concise notes, key terms, key descriptions. Imagine if the day of the test you have 5 seconds to run through like lecture 2. You want to look at the study guide and like quickly memorize that shit before going into your exam. You don't want to be going through every single example and really comprehending it and that kind of stuff. So in a way, this note-taking stuff is supposed to help you synthesize the material on study guider. Does that make sense? Does that feel right? You guys got that? Cool. Let me know if you have questions though. I'm done. Huh? All right. Okay. Okay. We're gonna turn to partners and talk to each other. It's gonna be great. And we're gonna define the last week's term. Yeah. Go ahead. Turn and talk. Oh my gosh. Of the 5? Okay. Yeah, overthinking. Yeah, overthinking. Produces exhaustive. What? Observation.
So that's like you complete the process so that you have like a variety of answers. Because like you can't just do like one test and be like, oh, that's it. You need like a variety of answers to complete the process. That's the facts. And that's like the what's that? Social. Clinical. Like the specifications or anything.
Oh, so it's time to write it down. Write it down if you need to on your card. Oh, yep.
Is this the final step? Yeah, that's the final
Write that shit down. Write down what you need to be there.
Oh yeah,
So good. Do you need another paper?
like remind us from like the other thing.
Yeah. No card. No card. Okay. I'm realizing. Okay, we're gonna go. Yes. Also, making sure that everybody knows the no card thing. Everyone always forgets it, so this year I brought it for 99 cents on Amazon. I've got 3 lessons worth, so if everyone forgets it for 3 lessons, I can cover you. 4th lesson, you're on your own. If you forget your note card, I need it. Yeah, that's on you. Okay, everyone got a note card though? No one's going to complain at the end of class that I wasn't fair because I didn't give out a note card, okay? Everyone? I'm covering my ass right now. You don't have one? Come up here. You got one? Yeah, synthesize that material. Yeah, that works too. That works too.
I just wanted to caution.
It's a type of word.
Everyone gets a note card. Oh, wait, the 8 foundations. 8 foundations?
Right.
Or is it 8 steps to it?
8 steps.
Or wait, no. It's 8 types of psychology. Yep. Sorry, my bad.
Okay. My bad too.
Okay, everyone got a note card? No one's gonna sue me.
I don't know if you can read that. But I like. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I like use the color of the first letter. And like. No, it's very personality.
Yeah, under presentation, spread space, under.
So, but it's still like the spread. Five steps.
As you write and figure it out, I think we have time to cover one in depth, and so I want to know which one I want to cover in depth. Yeah? Okay. I will write your name down and I will check that out. Thank you. And no, I did not take notes. I take attendance at the end because there's always people that come late. I'm gonna take attendance by the names on the comprehension challenges I get back, and that's gonna be your attendance. So when you fill that out, I'll get your name that way. Okay. Yeah, which one am I covering in depth, guys? Choose. Oh, so this one I'll probably just cover in depth. I think we have enough time. So I want to know, what can I help you on that exam?
We got personality slide.
Oh, this is supposed to be psychology. Like,
Yeah,
so like that's psychology. Then clinical, then experiment. You'll have to go through this.
Oh, okay.
Personality and social and then so the P here just stands for psychology.
So that's a good point.
Which is not eight types. There are eight types. There's like
Process is when if the
There, I got it.
yeah. So psychology is like
there's a bunch of little steps, but if your experiment fails and you get like the results, you're gonna have to go through the whole process again.
Yeah.
So if your experiment there's only like 4 steps. Unless it's bad, and then there's another step and it brings you all the way back to the front.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A lot of experiments go through those revisions. A lot of experiments don't succeed the first time around. Yeah. That will be covered. Oh, here it is.
Oh, this, yeah, so experimental is cognitive, but like social and social economic.
That'll be really embarrassing if I found
This is all.
Oh no, there's no 8, 1, and 7. I found out.
Oh yeah, psychology. I count
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I count psychology as, yeah, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's technically supposed to spread like that way, you know? I just count it as 8 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. But they're like subsections of each other. If you think of modules, this is one big module, and then it breaks into 2, and then this one breaks into a bunch, like that. But yeah, let's go. Okay. Okay, it's moving, it's grooving. Doing that. Okay, I feel like we've hit a wall, so we're definitely going to cover this. Okay, I feel like we'll cover 5 foundations of psychology. Okay, let's do it. Who kind of feels good about this? Who thinks that they could define evolution, for example? Or I can do it. Or really, I guess someone. Anybody know like the main person related to evolution? Yes?
Darwin.
Yeah, Charles Darwin. There's actually something called the Darwin Awards. It's really funny if you look it up. It's people who have died in a really incredibly stupid way and have done us a favor by removing their genes from our gene pool. It's called Darwin Awards. I think my favorite one is this guy who's with his buddies in a car and suddenly the brakes die and he's driving the damn car and so he does a really heroic thing and jumps out of the car. But the thing is that he didn't tell his homie. And so they're just in the car and it's driving. And somehow they pull the brake, they get out safely, they're fine. But he had managed to jump off the cliff. So he went the Darwin way, removing genes from the gene pool to increase our success as a species. And so going into that, evolution is essentially going through natural selection. It's caused by natural selection, which is essentially any genes or any traits that you have that improve your reproductive success will be passed on to the next generation. Think of it as race, okay? Like if you are able to get with the other member of your species, it is more likely that your genes will be passed on to more children, like spreading that seed, like that kind of thing. That is evolution. We'll break that down in further detail as an example in the short answer question. So I'm going to go on to materialism because I feel like we never have enough time. Anybody feel good about materialism? Every single person who came to office hours asked this question, so yeah.
Lots of good talking.
Thank you. Materialism is that like everything is set, like every object that we see or touch is like a set physical thing. It's like kind of like the opposite of idealism for me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So materialism comes from the word material. It is saying that we see material things. They go back into our brain. We have those neurons fire, and we're registering that on a neurological basis, and that is it. That's what makes up our reality. It's perception and cognition. That's it. Idealism, on the other hand, as you so amazingly saying, is kind of the opposite. It's saying that it's an ideal in our head. It's subjective. Think of it as like red pill, blue pill, okay? Like, they're not a purple pill. They're separate pills, okay? Materialism and idealism. When it's saying that whatever we see is reality. That's it. Materialism. Idealism, on the other hand, is saying that reality can be whatever we perceive it as. Think of it as the optical illusions that we saw in lecture. Remember the dress? It was blue and black or white and gold. I see purple and bluish, so I don't know. But that's an example of idealism. That's an example of us having our own subjective perceptions. And then moving on to modularity. Modularity is essentially saying that the brain breaks into different parts. That's all, okay? It's not just one brain. We have little names for each little part. It breaks down, and each part has its own specific, like, principle, value, action that it does, little job. Think of it as a bunch of little jobs working next to each other, making a huge factory. Go.
Okay, so isn't modularity the same as materialism in terms of like your brain is divided into sections and it's like specifically for cognitive function or
Yeah, so they kind of build on each other, right? Materialism is talking more about that consciousness piece, that reality piece. It's saying that the brain is the reason why we have a reality, why we have our perception, like we perceive consciousness. Modularity, on the other hand, is arguing about the little parts that go into the brain. It's not really talking about consciousness as much as it's talking about little neuroanatomy pieces. It's talking about, like, if you imagine on Bright Space, there's modules in each class. Class breaks down into exam 1, and then SIG guide, and then da-da-da-da-da, and it all makes up Bright Space. That makes more sense. Okay. Any other questions? Last one is empiricism. It's very much into what we can observe and quantify. So it wants a particular measure for everything that is in an experiment. It wants to prove it empirically. Like if you've ever heard of the word empirical evidence, for example, that comes from empiricism. It wants objective, not subjective, proof that something exists, that something is happening. Is that right? That's the easiest one, I think. And I can go into that in further detail. I don't know if I have those slides on me right now. Thank you for listening. I hope you're still paying attention. In case you are, here's the news. Thank you. I made this news. Somebody asked me that. That means folder. It's me not listening to the open lecture. I go to lecture, by the way. If you want to find me at the lecture, I will be in the front listening. Because apparently no other TAs do this, but all of his exams are built on his lectures. And his lectures are very different from the reading. So I don't know what they're doing in their recitations. Like, I actually fully might go and crash another recitation because I don't know what they're doing. I'm just going outside. But, yeah, 8 types. 8 types of things exist. I can break down all of them. I'm already feeling on all of them. You want me to break it down?
Can you break down social psychology?
Yeah, of course. So, social psychology, scandalizing. Think about it as, for example, maybe on this that we were seeing. You perceive that one thing is more popular, and so you vote for that because it seems like it's more popular. That's social factors influencing your decision. Or think about when Poll Everywhere shows the right answer, and it's like so obvious that you're not in the right answer, so you like quickly switch over. That's social factors affecting your decision. That's psychology going on. They're known for like really, really, really ethically concerning experiments. There's the Stanford prison experiment where they were seeing how authority plays into action by having a bunch of people dressed up as guards and a bunch of people as prisoners, and basically traumatized the prisoners, like made them like shit in buckets, didn't allow them to wash themselves, like beat them a little bit. It was not good. That's social psychology. Think about the Milgram obedience study. We'll go into that in more detail, but essentially it's any social factor influencing your decisions and your thoughts and all of that. It's really prominent, like, where did it go? It's really prominent. Think about in-group and out-group, or like your own little social group and how it's kind of separate from the rest of the NYU community. We build our own little social groups, and that's social psychology. Does that make more sense? Yeah. If you want just a basic, plain definition, it's social factors that influence our psychology. I get that feedback sometimes that I ramble. I can also just give you a plain definition if you want to quickly write something down. I can run through this in greater detail if I'm not feeling it. Decisions, thoughts, Action. Anything but a blank stare. I'll go first, right? Psychology, that's the entirety of it. It's like what goes on in our brain, what goes on in our mind. It includes policy. It breaks into two. Experimental and clinical. Experimental is stuff that is still going on. It breaks into all of these factors: cognitive, developmental, personality, social, abnormal. Cognitive has to do with perception and cognition, which kind of is a name. It has to do the most with neuroscience, actually. So if you're one of those neuro geeks, I know there's a couple of you out there who would really, really love cognitive psychology. It goes into cognitive neuroscience as well. Social neuroscience taught by Idealism is so good. Hard class, amazing though. Love her. She's incredible. Developmental, that has to do with your entire lifespan. So if that question asks you anything about age, from like infancy to old age, you're thinking developmental. Developmental, okay? Personality. So now we're thinking about how like your actions are based part of you. I think that personality, there's a lot of personality tests, for example. There's the Myers-Briggs, which you get like a couple letters, INFP or ENFJ or whatever. And it's breaking your personality down into like little operational definitions, which we'll cover later, to kind of predict what your behavior might be in the future. There's the most money in personality psychology because if you can predict how somebody acts off of like their basic personality, you can make big. There's some business people here too. You probably will have to take a personality test at some point when you're going into the job market because they do that as an onboarding thing to see how you're going to react in like a whole company. Social, we covered that. Abnormal. Think about the DSM-5. Anyone know about the DSM-5? Purple book, terrifying, like. It has all of the disorders that you will probably encounter in your psychology life. It has ADHD, OCD, it has MDD, it has anxiety, all of them. It's basically defining terms that we use in psychology, but as disorders. Think about it as deviating from the norm. Anything from the norm. It's also got a bunch of like different sexual disorders. They've got deviations from the norm too. The word perverse is actually like based in deviating from the norm. And then clinical, which is what I'm going into. Oh my gosh. I started out in abnormal and I was really interested in how we define it and like are we pathologizing stuff that is becoming increasingly normal? For example, prolonged grief disorder. If you grieve for too long, you are now disordered. And then I kind of went from there to clinical, and that has to do more with treatment. So, for example, I gave this example last class, but it's a good example. Over the last summer, I was working in an inpatient psychiatric ward with mainly schizophrenics and dementia, and I set some of them up with not only psychopharmacology, so medications for them, that's treatment, but I also gave them, I put a prescription for art therapy as well, and also movement therapy for some people with Parkinson's. That's all clinical. That has to do with treatment. It is taking these abnormal definitions and being like, okay, well now what do we do about that? Like, we have the key terms, we have how we quantify or categorize them. Like, what are we going to do about it? Clinical. Does that make sense? Okay, now we're going into this. He covered this in a bit more detail, and he repeated it from the very first lecture, so I think this might be on the test. That should be. He talked a lot about theory and hypothesis in his last lecture, so I would expect to see that on the exam. First, he makes observations. For example, who wants to give me an example of something I could do an experiment on? I don't feel like doing the same. Overthinking test produces exhaustive individuals. One. Do an example of something I could do an experiment on. Yeah. body sensitivity. I feel like we covered that in class. I don't want to talk to him. Oh, I don't know. I guess I can do that. Okay, so, let me think. So, I observed that people are more sensitive on their thumb than their pinky, for example. I'm like, oh, wow, this is a common observation. I see this all the time. People are like really into their thumbs and not into their pinkies at all. I am observing and quantifying that pattern. I've seen it a couple times now. Wow, this is just so much more sensitive to this. I make a theory. My theory has to have a hypothesis in it. It has to be, that's to basically make, that's to turn this abstract property into an operational definition. So I'm saying, oh, instead of just general sensitivity, how am I putting that into operational definition? So anybody could take my hypothesis and make it their own. They could repeat it across the world, maybe in Japan, maybe in China. I would have to really define it down. So I'm going to say that a thumb is twice as likely, or like I'm going to say a thumb is more ticklish. I know he used ticklish as an example. He used pain threshold as an example. What was the last one? Yeah, ticklish and pain threshold. Okay. Yeah, then pinky. That's going to be operational definition. And then I would have to go about and measure that. And measuring kind of goes into devising a test. So how exactly am I going to measure the ticklishness of a thumb? Like, how do you go about measuring that? You just lightly stroke it, for example. Yeah. Or maybe use a feather. You just have to define some way of making that test that you want to do for that operational definition. Or a pain threshold. That would be easier. I get a needle, and I count the amount of seconds it takes for someone to register that a needle is going into their thumb. How about that? That would be devising a test to test the operational definition, turning it into a measure. So, the data that I get from that experiment, the evidence, would be under measure. I found a way that I'm going to measure and do this experiment and gather data on thumbs and pinkies. And then I would gather and decide like how am I going to analyze the data that I've collected. Essentially, like, is it good data, is it bad data, does it support my hypothesis of the data that's rejected? Imagine no pinky ever has any response to a feather stroking it. Then I would be like, okay, damn, there goes one of my operational definitions. I guess it's invalid. I have to make a new one, and I have to go through the iterative process to have a different operational definition. Does that make sense? It doesn't always work out with your experiments. You'll find this out if you ever work in a lab. Half of your life is just spent on iterative processes. Because unlike medicine, which has its stethoscopes and it has its blood pressure monitors and cuffs, they have like instruments that they can use for this measurement. But all we have is the operational definitions we create. It has to be so solid that it can be replicated anywhere in the world at any time. We don't have the luxury of like just an instrument that we can use over and over. All we have is what we create. All we have is what we define as the operational definition. Questions? We're going to go into the speech share. But first, like, really, any questions about this stuff? Any questions at all? Because this will definitely be on the comprehension quiz. Anything. Anything at all. No? All right. Then you guys have to talk again. Go ahead.
Is it valid? Is it reliable? Like how many? What? Like this concept? Like I don't know. Validity is like. Oh, for sure. Because it is curvy. How do you define like validity and reliability?
I think reliability is what we're asking.
Yeah, maybe.
In the lecture, I remember about like a lot of the experiments in psychology you can't produce the same result. So reliability.
But it's valid because the average it's like in the middle. So tendency to produce the same result. Yeah, reliability is the same result. The average is
Well, there's two same like definitions. There's two types of validity. One talks more about like combining abstract and operational concepts, and then convergent pretty sure is
just about the average.
it's like operational operation. Like I don't even like I don't know, that's how I do something. Like I don't know how to like explain it. That's why I put attention to this one.
Okay, you put a lull. I'm gonna hit it. So, you've probably seen this graph in class. He explains it through the bow and arrow processes, which confused one dude that was like, wait, so there's an actual sentence? I remember that, and then it confused me. So essentially what it's saying is, imagine these are all the data points you get from an experiment. This is showing that, oh, they always get the same result. It's just not the right result. So imagine, like, I have a scale at home, and I love the scale because it's come with me to every single house from Third North to Chinatown to Two Bridges back to my girlfriend's place. So I'm never letting go of this scale. But it always says that I'm exactly 10 pounds heavier than I am. All I have to do is subtract 10, and I get the right answer. But it's not valid. It's not giving me the right result. I'm not actually like that weight. But it reliably does it. So every time I can just delete 10 and I'm like, all right, I don't want to do the whole scale, like come with me to anywhere. This is showing that it's reliable, but not valid. It doesn't somehow add 20 or 50 or 20, like 26 each time. It's always reliably doing 10 plus. So as a result, I can keep it, it's just not valid. I couldn't use it in an experiment or something. Valid but not reliable. So usually you see this like closer to the center. I don't know what this graph is, but it's usually right here. It's closer to what we want. So imagine the scale is like closer to my actual weight. It's only like 0 pounds off, but like kind of around. Yeah. So like it would sometimes show me the right result and it would maybe be 5 off, but it's always like sporadically 5 off. It's like maybe +1, +3, +2. It's so closer to my actual weight, not like 10 pounds off, but it's still not exactly right. It's closer, but it's not reliable. So I wouldn't want this one. If it was just like that, if it was closer, but still not exactly right, but I could delete 10 each time. I'll explain this later too. I'm giving a rundown and then I'm going to do an example, and I always lose people on this. I don't know why every year, so people get bored, I think. I'm going to give a really crazy example, and it's going to be good. Neither reliable nor valid. Imagine I have a scale, and it says I'm 500 pounds, and then 200 pounds, and then 100 pounds. And it changes its mind every single freaking day. It's not anywhere close to this, and every single time it's giving me a different result. That make sense? Okay. What's reliable and valid? I jump on a scale. It tells me my weight. I'm like, cool. That's it. Okay? And I'm just going to give a real quick definition. Reliable is that every time you test it, on any given day, any given environment, it still tells you like the same result. If you like put two of me on the scale, it would still give like 10 plus. Okay? Like if my friend jumped on that scale, it would still say she's 10 pounds heavier than she is. Regardless of whoever is on it, it's still going to say it's 10 more than the actual weight. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, good. And then validity is how close it actually is to like what you're trying to measure. An example I give of this would be, think about Beck's depression scale, for example. It says, are you having trouble sleeping? Are you feeling lethargic? Are things that you used to like not doing it for you anymore? Those are all operational definitions, by the way. A non-valid version of depression would be, is your favorite color blue? It's not valid. It's not related to what you're trying to measure. It doesn't really have a good operational definition for that abstract principle. Another example, and I can see some confused faces. Anxiety, for an example. I could say a valid one would be avoidance, for example. Avoidance is a good operational definition for an abstract property like anxiety. I could say that you avoid situations that you find yourself fearful in. And I could do that for anybody, and it would come back as valid. It would come back with the same result. Neither reliable, I already covered this, both reliable and valid, I already covered this. This always gets people over here, so I'm going to go through a really prolonged example of it. And I also people get bored of this concept, so I'm going to go through a easy example. So this is my friend. Let's imagine an experiment. This is my friend. Her name is Sierra, and she is going through the whole dating process. She's gone through Hinge, she's gone through Tinder, she's gone through Lex, and she's just not having it with women. She's already signed off men. They've been crazy to her. New York men are crazy, and she wants to figure it out with women, but she wants us to screen it for her. We all have to create tests to screen these women for her. Okay? Her name's Sierra. These are all my homies. They're going to represent reliability, validity, yes or no, reliability, or validity, yes and no, and all that stuff. I'll show you. Okay, so this is Bella. For example, we use the scale example of jumping on and then having 10 plus. If she was a measurement, it would be reliable but not valid. She gives really good advice regardless of the person, regardless of the person she's doing. That she's analyzing. She gives good advice. It's reliable. But it's not valid. She's never really been with a woman. She doesn't know what exactly she's supposed to be, analyzing. And if she had to analyze how long a relationship Sierra has would last, she always says it's shorter than it actually is, but by exactly 10 days. Okay. Does that make sense? It's consistent, but it isn't covering what we're supposed to be covering. Reliable, not valid. Now let's do the inverse of that, okay? Let's do me as a method of measurement. I would be valid but not reliable. So I have been with women, so I can analyze what I'm supposed to analyze. I'd be like, oh right, yeah, no, I recognize that property, and I recognize this. I can tell you, and it's closer to what we're actually trying to analyze, which is how long a relationship is going to last. Okay? But I'm kind of all over the place. It's kind of biased for me. Like, sometimes I'm feeling the relationship, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes, sometimes, Sierra will say that she really likes the person, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I love the person too. So I'm not really reliable. Does that make sense? And I base it off maybe the communication style and argument style. That's just how I see how long relationships are gonna last. That'll come into play later. But yeah, I'm analyzing what I'm supposed to analyze, but I'm not doing it consistently. And because I'm not doing it consistently, I'm not reliable. Good? I like that people are still with me. This is unusual at this point of year. This always gets people. Okay, it's working. Gonna do this next year. Neither reliable nor valid. Okay, so this is Graham. He's vibing, he's chilling, but he has no idea women to women relationships. He has no idea women. He has no idea how to analyze how long a relationship is gonna last. And his opinion changes every single day. He thinks the test that he would give Sierra's potential girlfriend is that it should be by the hotness levels of each person and their astrology sign. So, yeah, it's neither reliable because it changes every day, and it's not valid because that has nothing to do with how long a relationship is going to last. Does that make sense? I love it. Love that we're sticking with it. Okay. And then lastly, it's my girlfriend. She's reliable and valid. She's been with women, so she knows what she's supposed to analyze. She knows exactly how long that relationship is going to be. She is on point every single time. And she gives great advice. She analyzes the situation carefully. She is not volatile like I am. She will give advice good every single time, regardless of the person, regardless of how she's feeling. You could give her any person, any test, and she would be able to just do it. In fact, she's so specific with it that she made 2 tests. One to see how long they're going to stay together, and then one to see what are the potential factors that would make them break apart. And now we are going to use these to analyze these constructs, okay? Let's get back to it. Essentially, summarizing, validity is that the test should relate to what you're trying to measure. For example, our awareness with women makes us more capable of measuring what person measure with women. This is not so much a problem when measuring like pretty basic principles like height, weight, temperature. You don't see as much issue with validity in the medical field. In fact, they do a lot to make sure that it's valid. But in psychological sciences, it's up to us. We have to really decide, like, is our operational definition really breaking down our abstract principle? Are those 2 things related? Like, you would have to think, like, how are you going to break down anxiety? I feel like we already did that. Or how would you break down an abstract property like risk? I like to use these every year. How would you, let's take the abstract property of risk. Who wants to make a operational definition of it? What goes into it? What works for you guys? What is an operational definition for Riz?
How many dates you can get?
Oh yeah, that would be a measure of Riz. We're thinking about, and I guess, what does that, going back a step, how many dates you can get. So the ability to get someone to agree to go on those with you, I guess charm could be an operational definition. And then you can measure charm by the amount of dates, or maybe the number of pickup lines that work. That would be a measure of charm or charisma. That makes sense. But love it. We went through this. Now we're going to cover these. We went through it last time in class. It always catches people up. We're going to cover it using an example. So, what is construct validity? Construct validity is essentially saying that your operational definitions have to relate to each other. If your abstract property is going to break down into all these little sections of, we said sensitivity, synchronicity, they all have to relate to each other. It can't just be random as factors that you chose that are somehow related to abstract property. They have to have construct validity and relate to each other. The ticklishness and pain both have to do with the idea of sensitivity. They relate to each other, and if you were to measure them on a graph, they would correlate with each other. For example, the more tickling you do, the higher they are, more ticklish. The harder that you press, the more they squirm. Like, they would correlate going upwards, if that makes sense. Yeah.
How would you use the data thing the operational definition?
Okay. Yeah. So go back to abstract property would be success of a relationship. Operational definition would be We all had different operational definitions, actually. For example, he thought that it would be astrology and hotness. Added an example of it not being convergently valid. They don't relate to each other. Construct validity. Okay, wait. I'm so sorry. So construct validity is how it relates to the abstract property. It has to actually relate to the abstract. I did this wrong. Okay, sorry. Wait. Construct validity is that your operational definition has to relate to the abstract property, and convergent validity is how they relate to each other. Okay? Wait, write that down. Yeah, so construct validity is how the operational definition relates to the abstract property. It has to be related, okay? It can't just be like, oh, if their favorite color is blue, then they're depressed. It has to be related, it has to be valid, okay? That's construct. Convergent, like the word converge, like they have to relate to each other and they have to positively correlate going up or down. Convergent. Construct, convergent. Thank you for touching me. Okay? So using this example, the length of a relationship has nothing to do with astrology. Essentially, his operational definition of astrology has nothing to do with the length of a relationship. Okay? So in this case, astrology is his operational definition, and the relationship is abstract property, okay? And because it doesn't relate, there's no construct there. It's not constructed. And then the other one is convergent validity. Astrology and hotness are both of his operational definitions. So they have nothing to do with each other. Like some people argue that they do, but no, they don't. On a scientific level, like if they were to prove this in a lab, it would not work. They do not converge. Okay. Now, let's see a good example of convergent validity. I said that I think a relationship will last based off their day-to-day communication style, how they want to check in and stuff, and then also how they argue. They get heated, if they're avoidant, or that kind of thing. Both of them have to do with communication. So therefore, they both converge, right? They both relate to each other, and therefore they are good operational definitions. Now we're going to consider subject bias and demand characteristics. So, subject bias, I'm using myself as an example. I can tell when my experimenter wants me to hype someone up or roast them. So, they're leading me because I think they want one thing, I'm going to act a specific way because of that. I'm biased. It's not my actual opinion. The main characteristics, that would be more specific. People always get confused with these, like what's the difference between subject bias and demand characteristics? I would say subject bias is like the general category. Demand characteristics is a specific thing. So in this example, demand characteristics would be if she asked me a question on her test that she was giving. She said, do you think that the relationship with the love of my life, wife of my future children, will last long? That's an example of reading. That's an example of a demand characteristic in which I know how she wants me to respond, and therefore it's going to affect my answer. Subject bias is just a general concept. Demand characteristic is a specific aspect of it. Question? Yeah.
I'm really confused with how you explain it.
Okay. Let's say,
I mean, that is confusing me. Like, the demand characteristic, like, to me, it sounds like it would also bias. So it's
yeah. So it's Subject bias, yeah, is my third. It's kind of like the whole thing, and then there's a bunch of different demand characteristics that you can do it.
Subject bias is like the
General thing.
Okay.
And then demand characteristics are usually like a particular aspect, like maybe you're leading a question, maybe you're the director of that course that can like tap you into do math, and the horse knows that you're leaning for it every time you want to answer a question. That would be a demand characteristic. Because that horse is seeing you do that, then it knows that I should do math for sure. I honestly don't know. What was it? It was like fun. Other fun. Yeah. That's crazy. Sure. So subject bias is essentially in an experiment when there is an experimentee and then a participant in it. The subject in your experiment knows how you want them to respond. So therefore, that influences how they're going to respond. Maybe they know that you're testing anxiety and you really want everyone to take your anxious. They're going to act more anxious. They're biased because they either want to help you or they could possibly harm you. So subject bias can go either way. It's just knowing what your experimenter wants out of you, and therefore that influences your decision. It's not always positive, and this is what messes people up sometimes. It's just a general concept of your subject knowing what the experimenter wants. An example of it in a negative context is that there's always one freshman in every experiment that is just there to fuck up the experiment. And so if you're testing general anxiety, he's going to give answers like all over the map, like, oh, I'm really anxious, but then in another part he's going to say, no, I'm like generally not. And it's because he knows that the experimenter wants him to be anxious, and as a response, he's giving answers that are not. It goes either way. It's just generally knowing what the experimenter wants out of you, and therefore that influencing your decisions, that influencing your reaction. We can also, I'll post a video that explains it in better terms for you guys. Yeah. There's a couple more. So, discriminant validity. A lot of people say that it's a test that can basically give you a different response if it's applied to a different person. I like to think of it as that if you made a test that was exactly opposite of it, it would give the opposite response. So imagine if she used a test to see how long they would stay together and it tested really high. If she did the opposite test and was like, how short is this relationship going to be? It's going to be that way. So it would be opposite direction. And because they're inverse of each other, it proves the validity of it. Does that make sense?
Okay, so there's just like two tests that they like.
Yeah. So for example, if I were to give a test on how anxious someone was or how relaxed someone was, if they tested really high on the relaxed test, then they would test really low on the anxiety test. It's the inverse of each other. Recap, because these concepts always mess people up. Construct validity is making sure that operational definition relates to your abstract concepts. Convergent validity is that those operational definitions, such as ticklishness and gain threshold, matching together. Reliability, making sure that a measurement can produce the same results for measuring the same thing. So if I was using that scale, for example, if I jumped on it, 10 pounds extra, or if my friend jumped on it, 10 pounds extra, that's reliability. Discriminant validity. The test will be, so this is the one where I was just explaining to her, if you give a test measuring anxiety and someone scores really low, then they'll score really high on the relaxed one. Inverses of each other. It can figure out that there's a difference there. I'm going to go over this again in recitation, because because every time people get confused because there's so many different types of validity, and he hasn't even covered most of them. He just gave like a cute little intro, but every time this messes people up. There are about 20 more that you have to memorize if you're going to go into the field. It's kind of awful. And I like to show this graph because it puts it kind of on a chart. You can kind of see if something is valid, it's going to be closer to the center. For example, knowing that your measurement will measure what it's supposed to. And if something's not valid, it's going to be further away from what you want it to be measuring. Reliability. Every time you use it, it gives you the same result. But this one is not valid, so it's not exactly center. Reliable and valid. Anybody want to give me an example, and I can kind of explain it through again?
I just have a question because Professor Knowles' slides, this is his picture for valid but not reliable, and that's the photo for your not reliable, not valid. And when I searched it up on Google, it also has different answers. And I remember Professor Knowles, his explanation was that the dogs, like the average of the dogs would be in the middle.
Closer to the center.
Yeah. But that's why it's like all scattered out. But I don't know, it's like a little bit confusing for me.
Yeah, so sometimes it depends on the class. Sometimes they'll say that valid but not reliable doesn't exist at all. It depends on if you're doing a specific class or if you're just doing a general class, because there's a huge argument with it. Essentially, what you have to know is that valid but not reliable means that it's going to be more scattered. It's not going to be in one specific spot. It's not going to be consistent every time. And then, but if it's valid, it's closer to the center. I like to think of it as like closer to the center, like this way. If you want to take the average of all of them, I think that's a little harder to generalize, but that works too. It's just essentially saying that it's closer to the center than this level.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That one's actually closer to the example I gave in the beginning. I just like this one because it's in a graph form. Okay, these are also the boring versions. Oh yeah, they give me a template for what I'm supposed to teach you every class, but it's always super long, and most TAs just read over it, and then that's that. I didn't want to exclude that from your learning process in case that works for you. It doesn't work for me, so I'm probably not going to read this through. But in case you just want like a boring version that most TAs teach from, like these are the ones, these are the definitions, and then they would ask the class, what is each concept? Do you want me to read through these? I'm getting yeses and nos. I can take the time to read through all of these if you want. I'm going to say no then? That was a confusing one. Okay. Next week, we are going to cover complexity, reactivity, variability, and distribution. I'm going to give a quick preview of distribution. Who would live in an area where it is 73 degrees average year round?
Old people.
Would you? No? That's technically the average for Miami. Miami's kind of 73 degrees all year round. But it's also the average of Death Valley in California. And essentially what it's saying is that you don't know the spread, okay? In Death Valley, it gets down to negative degrees, but it also gets down to like 110. And so that's a huge spread. You don't know what you're signing up for unless you know how wide the range is. That's what distribution is. And we're going to go through that next class in greater detail. But that's just an intro of what you might want to look into when it comes to graphing. Unfortunately, I feel like we did too many tests, or too many questions, so we might not have time for the tests. You might actually get off easy today, which is fine. I can give it to you guys and you can take it home. But just a reminder, because this is going to be branded into your head over and over, correlation is not causation. We'll do the short answer next week. That was taking longer than I thought. So, yeah, I think I'm out of time. What's the place for your battery? Battery on Soma.
Your examples. I wanted to ask you, do I leave this to join your brightspace, or?
So what will happen is that you won't actually be transferred over.
Okay.
Because my class is at max. What I can do is I can send you all the materials you need to know. Here, actually, let me do that
That's so
right
sweet. I feel like this is extra work for you, though.
Girl, I don't mind. I'm just glad that you have the materials and you're enjoying the class.
I do.
Yeah.
I think those examples really help apply those
It
hard
just keeps
definitions.
people engaged. Every year, 2 people fall asleep. This year, no one fell asleep, but it was more confused.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it was worth it or not. I'll see. I'll think.
We'll see.
I wonder if you can audit this section because there's a shit ton of stuff. I'm just gonna give you a couple things that you should bookmark and have in like a folder that you
Okay.
can look through, and then that way you can keep up
Okay.
with whatever you need to keep up.
Like a
you
Google
haven't
Drive?
Yeah, you haven't signed up for Note Taker and Study Guider.
Yes, I have to do that.
I think I sent you this.
Yes, you did. On Friday. I didn't check
No
until-
no worries. Take your damn time. I don't mind. I'm still trying to catch up with 30 people's grading. So
Yes. So I need to. Yeah.
I usually get 15. 30's crazy this year. But continue.
Yeah, I have to sign up for the group me and then fill that out. And I didn't check my email this weekend, so I was like,
You good? Take your time. Everyone's doing the assignments late. That's totally chill.
And so we were supposed to have a quiz. So if we don't have it, then we do it at home. What were you saying?
Yeah, I'll probably send it out for something to
Okay.
do at home.
Awesome.
Mhm.
I just wanted to ask, so I signed up for next Monday for note taking and study guide.
Okay.
So like, when do I submit that? Like, when do I link that out? Like by the end of Monday, or?
Okay, so this is the deadline to submit right here. So
Oh,
if
okay.
you are Vitkra and you're
Yeah.
doing it on, so you would submit then.
Okay.
And the stuff that you would submit for is 916 and 918. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I already signed for the note taker and study guider, but I'm not sure if I can see on your
Which one are you?
Isabella.
Isabella Zhang?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think you signed up for one originally, and then now I see that you're signed up for both, so you're good.
Okay.
Perfect.
And also,
Thank
can
you.
I get a quiz?
Yes, I'll put it on Brightspace for
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
It's one of each, right?
Yeah, it's one of each.
Okay.
Bro, I'm sweating. That was a new lesson plan that I made this year. It's less boring than the usual valid but not reliable, reliable but not valid, but I don't know.
I think in comparison to the bullseye thing, it made so much more sense.
Yeah,
What was it called? What was that graph called?
the valid, not reliable, reliable, not valid, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's just called, it doesn't have a name.
Okay.
But
Comparison to that, because he didn't really explain at
he didn't explain it well, but it is really fucking hard to explain. Bro. Oh my god, and that totally threw off the entire lesson plan. Okay. I'll have to plan better next week.
I don't know. I think sometimes I don't really know what styles people like. It made sense to me, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to the lecture, right?
Yeah, I'm going to lecture. It's later. Oh,
Yes.
oh my god, I know I
we know that it's not the true population, like it's a sample. And as you'll kind of see with a couple of the formulas here, we do a little correction with degrees of freedom to essentially unbias the biased data. You're usually going to see that in the form of n-1, but we'll get to that here in a sec with the standard deviation. So let's see, actual measures of central tendency, we got a few of them. You probably recognize a couple of these from other classes. We have mean, which is simply the arithmetic average of the scores. Is the middle of the middle. So literally all you're doing is you're taking